everybody, what's up? How you doing? Mike Gross here. YouTube.com/rockinguitarlessons1 and rockinguitarlessons.com. I've been asked several times from subscriber T. Bergs, what do I think of Def Leppard's original guitarist Pete Willis? And you really want to know my opinion, and that's cool because when I started doing these Q&As, that's really what it is. There's not a right or wrong, right? So you're inquiring to know my opinion on which, you may know more than I do, but I'll tell you how I feel about it. And right off the bat, I love Def Leppard. There were two albums, my very first two records that I bought shortly after I started playing guitar. One of them was Pyromania from Def Leppard, which is one of my all-time favorite rock records. It's amazing, produced so well, and just, it's perfect, man. There was that, and the other one was Bark at the Moon from Ozzy. So, I have some roots with Def Leppard. Now, on the Pyromania album, Def Leppard had several albums out prior to Pyromania. But I, started playing right around the time Pyromania came out. Actually, a little before that, MTV, was just new, so I remember seeing the video for Pyromania and just being blown away with, it was something that I hadn't quite heard before. And I know people older than me in the 70s, that were, young teens in the 70s or whatever, when Def Leppard came out with that, it was different. Now, prior to that, they were just they reminded me kind of like AC/DC, the Bon Scott years, that type of, hard rock and roll, but they evolved into this, I don't know, a thing of beauty, obviously. And Mutt Lange had a little bit to do with that, actually a lot to do with that. So, Pete Willis. I want to list a few things about him. He's born in 1960. He's responsible for Joe Elliott and Steve Clark joining the band. I watched this documentary where Joe Elliott said he had missed his bus, and it was the best thing that happened because he ran across Pete Willis, and they were looking for a singer, and Joe Elliott was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot, mate." And there it was, So he's responsible for really this amazing nucleus that is Def Leppard. Pyromania came out in January of 1983. And I totally remember it, like I said, in the video, just everything, every song on that album, just amazing. But, at that point, Phil Collen was in the band, and from what I understand, I could be wrong on this, is Pete Willis they'd been in the studio, Def Leppard, and I think all the rhythm tracks were done, and things just were not working out. Pete Willis, drinking problem, and not just a minor one, like a major one. Came back, he was hungover from partying the night before, went in the studio. Mutt Lange wanted him to do the solo over a song. I don't know which song, but you can hear part of it. I actually heard part of it. Can't play, man, when you're that plastered, is what it comes down to. So Pete was a big party dude. There's no doubt about it. And it was affecting the band. And so somewhere in the mix of that, they ended up getting Phil Collen in the studio, and he started laying down. They asked him, all we need is guitar solos on this. That's how he auditioned for Def Leppard, and just blew him away. I don't know if the first solo he did was the one to Photograph. I'm not sure, but I really like Phil Collen as a guitar player, man. I think he's great. I think he's there's some different qualities about him as a player that is not just about gymnastics up and down the neck. And the dude could shred too. But it's like when you think of him, I feel like he's a great and has always been the key guy that Def Leppard needed, that was going to take it serious. Pete Willis, good guitar player, no doubt about it. I mean, you can hear his prior work. But the Def Leppard of 1983 with Pyromania just was a different thing. And like I said, obviously Mutt Lange, him getting involved in the picture, the producer, really, he worked him real hard. So things would have changed even if Pete Willis was still in the band, but he was showing up not able to, solo at all. Just a bunch of noise and gibberish, and people say the same thing. I've watched them, because of you, T. Bergs, I was looking up some stuff. But you got to be careful on the internet because you can't just take people's words. So I was able to find him talking about it, and he seems pretty humble and understanding. Def Leppard treated him right, paid him his royalties. After all that, Def Leppard always seemed like the band that is, just they take things seriously and they do it right, and they handled that situation right. There's some other big name artists that don't acknowledge and appreciate some key players that were in their bands. I'm not going to mention any names. You guys probably already know who I'm talking about, right? So, T-Bergs, I get the vibe. You're a huge Pete Willis fan, and I'm sure you know a lot more than I do. It's just the stuff that I have noticed from a personal aspect with him. It was not jiving with the band. They weren't going to have it. He'd had chance after chance after chance to get it right and couldn't get it right. So it's like, one more chance. This is the last time, that type of thing. So I think it was the right thing, I wasn't in the band, so I don't know. This is just based off of what I've heard in interviews from Def Leppard, Joe Elliott and Rick Allen and Savage and all of them. So to me, Phil Collen was home because, like I said, it was one of the first albums I bought, only playing guitar for, a year or whatever. So it was a big influence on me and impacted me. Had I been a few years older or started playing a couple years sooner, who knows, maybe I'd be more partial towards Pete Willis. But as a player, I like Phil Collen more. I think he's fabulous. I think he's really a diamond, man. There's something different about his playing, and there's something different about Def Leppard. And he, to me, was the final ingredient in that band that they needed, the missing puzzle link or whatever to make it work for him. So, but I did find out in 1985, Pete Willis had started a band with some members of Iron Maiden and Gary Moore's band, like ex-members from those bands. I didn't know about that. And did another little thing in the early 90s, but nothing never really took off for him. But he's taken care of. Def Leppard took care of him. His names are on the songs. They treated him fairly, in my opinion. That's where I'm at with it. Like I said, I'm not the encyclopedia on Def Leppard, but this is just from what I've gathered. From a playing standpoint, I'm more into Phil Collen. It's just where I'm at. It hit me, the first year of my playing. So, it is what it is. Still have that album, one of the first albums I had. And, man, that's a good album. For you younger subscribers, if you haven't heard Def Leppard, the Pyromania album, go get it. Please. If you're an 80s rock guy. But even if you're not, but they're good. They're good. There's no doubt about it. But that album's phenomenal, the way it's produced. Everything's massive. It's huge. The drums. Yeah, there was some big reverb on it, but it wasn't too big. When you hear some bands, you're like, that just sounds cheesy. And having Mutt in there helped Def Leppard to produce that quality of an album. And everything was analyzed like that, not just the drums. Every member of the drum, the snare, the cymbal, the hi-hat, it was just stuck through a microscope. I love that. I love that mindset. And then they would do the same thing with Phil Collen and Steve Clark and Joe Elliott. Joe Elliott was pushed hard, man, on that album. He said he lost his voice being pushed so hard. He was down on himself, got all frustrated, walked out of the rehearsal room, and David Coverdale from Whitesnake was, practicing with his band right before the Slide It In album. And he said it just depressed him because Coverdale was so good. He wanted to sing like that. It was like this, 4 minutes. He just did the whole song perfectly. But, Joe Elliott seems like a humble dude. And I'll tell you what, he's got a hell of a range. Joe Elliott he's top notch, no doubt about it. So that's it in a nutshell. There's my view on, more than just Pete Willis, but Def Leppard, how they affected me, being my first album. And I just think amazing. And they're still good. All right? Subscribe and keep the Q&As coming. See ya.